Good afternoon, everybody. Mr. Curley here with Martial Arts America. Today's date is April 29th, 4/29. This is your Wednesday, Little Dragon and Cheered Up Beginner Psi class. Okay, we have the entire Psi form covered at this point. Okay, but so now the goal is to go back and kind of sharpen up and fine tune some of the parts of it and really make sure that we can we call it sharpening the sword. Just going back and making sure that all the little parts that make up the actual form are the best we can make them. So the strikes are amazing. The blocks are really, they're in the proper position, right? If I do a high block and I do it here, it's not going to protect my head. It's got to be up tall. Make sure that the combinations are flowing together properly. We're not rushing them. We're also doing them with enough power and speed. And then especially one of the very common difficult parts of the form are the stance, what's called a stance transition. What that means is when you go from one stance to the next, and your body is having to move and shift and adjust. And a lot of times while that's happening, you're also doing a block or a strike. And focusing on those two things at the same time can be very difficult, in terms of motor skills and kind of getting that part right. And so we're going to go back and really make sure we lock that in, and we kind of show you a couple drills to just make that as easy as possible. Because again, that a lot of times just focusing on that part and making that part easier will make the whole form easier. All right. And again, if you're a student that's practicing at home and you're having a little bit of trouble with, let's say, going from your Fugel stance to your Chungel stance and kind of knowing exactly where you're supposed to go and how it's supposed to feel, that's a very normal thing. So if that's giving you a little bit of hesitation, if that's giving you a little bit of difficulty, please don't get frustrated. Take a breath, have as much fun with it as you can, and just understand that the only way to get better at it is to do it. It's not going to be easy all the time, but it will be easy at some point with enough practice. Okay, and that's kind of the goal. Is we're going to take difficult things, we're going to make them easier. Okay, not as in I'm going to take the difficulty away. You're going to practice to the point where you're good enough to make it that it's easy for you. Think about if you've been handwriting for a little while and now you can write your name very easily. Think about when you first started just writing in general. It was probably hard to hold the pencil. Then it was hard to get it feel right on the paper. Then it was hard just to write letters. Then it was difficult because I had to take all these letters and form them into words. Now I have to make these words into sentences. Right? You've done this pattern your entire life. This is just a different feeling because it's not in that school environment. Okay, but you're very good at taking something, putting enough time and effort into it, and taking something that was difficult and making it easy through practice. That's all we're going to do with this form. Okay, I believe in you, so I hope you guys believe in yourselves. So we're going to start here. We're going to open up our hands, get the Psi moving. Not that it's going out or it's going up. Good. You can also work on doing your combinations. Very good. Making sure that the Psi starts to flow with you. Little transitions like I go from punch to then as I pull back, right when it kind of gets to my belt, I've already switched it into this position. And then I fan. And then from there, I make sure as you pull back, you rotate that. You take your hand, you just curve, you bend your wrist towards yourself. That turns the Psi up and down and stops it from poking you. And then you strike out. And then you down block. And especially what's kind of a very helpful thing is to kind of use your belt and use your belt line as kind of a measurement and as a guide to tell you where your hands are. Because a lot of times when we're doing Psi, we get really focused on whatever the hand is doing. We forget where our other hand is, right? And no hand should just be hanging down. You should always have a hand, if it's not active and doing something, it should be locked in by your belt, good, or kind of in your armpit tucked in tight, one of the two. Okay, and so make sure that's why kind of having it pressed against your belt, you can actually feel your knuckles against your belt. A lot of times just feeling that will remind you that it's in the right spot. Good, same kind of idea when you go from 1, go to 2, you'll pull it down, and whether it's up in tight here, and you touch, that's why I like to keep mine in a little bit higher and tighter, is when I go from here and then pull it down, I'll actually take the monochi in this one and touch my belt so I know I pulled it back far enough, and then I can fan. And then when you pull it back here, when you rotate it, you actually feel your knuckles kind of guide against your belt a little bit to tell you you've came back far enough. Because a very common thing when we're doing the combinations is we start to speed everything up, and moves that we think are like that end up being like that. They don't come back far enough to gain power. Same thing with the punch. Moves that we think are like this end up becoming, okay, we feel like that's enough in the moment because we don't know better. But so you have a kind of a feel to make it a little bit easier. And you have your down block, of course. Okay, you also have your double block, where you practice kind of bringing it up, pushing out of your knees. And then, of course, you have your fan block, your double X block here, where it locks together. It's a very good idea to practice that. Again, the ultimate goal with your X block is getting to where you can do it without looking at it. That part takes a lot of practice. Good. But it's just, once you kind of get the feel for it, it's definitely one of those techniques that once you get it a couple times, you start to understand how to do it, what it's supposed to feel like, kind of the distance apart from your hands. Good. Then it'll start to become very natural. But again, that only comes with practice. Good. And you can cross it either direction. Either one works for me. Right, whether you have this hand pushing and pulling or this hand pushing and pulling, just make sure each hand is doing something opposite. If this one is pulling back to you, this hand has to be pushing away from you. If this hand is pulling back, this hand has to be pushing forwards. Good. There. I like to push this one and pull this one. But whichever you like to do is up to you. So we're going to start our form. Feet together. Bow. We're going all the way through it as well. And then I will step out, bring it up and block the sides. Fold, pull out. Yeah, very good. Pull the left one, step forward and punch. Pull back, slide. Good. Fan. Pull back as you pivot your foot. Strike out. Down block in front of your knee. This is called squaring up your punch. Point your punch because you want this pull and push action. So I take the down block and I just point it where I'm going. I step forward, punch with my other hand. Pull back, turn your foot, fan. Pull back, turn your foot, strike, down block, square up, step, punch, turn, slide it over, fan, sorry if I'm getting too close to the camera, pivot your back foot, pull the hand in, strike it out, flat with the ground, down block, punch left, punch right. Open up both of them, cross them, step back to key my stance, pull down, good, make that tight X block, take your front foot, good, turn, step, block, step forward, double strike. Just the dragons, drop down, punch, punch. Okay, juniors, you will stay with me. Dragons with 1X challenge, you can definitely stay with me. Punch left, punch right, turn to the left, high block in that Fugel stance. Turn the back foot, pull it down. Now combo 3 times, stay with me, punch, fan, strike, down block, punch, fan, strike, down block, punch, fan, strike, down block, punch left, punch right. Now we're going to turn over our back shoulder. We kind of assume somebody's attacking us from behind. So what we do now is we have to turn and get our body to face them so we have power and balance. I'm going to take my feet and turn them towards the back wall. So again, if the camera is there, I'm going away from the camera. My left foot steps back and I turn my feet, now going this way. So again, I'm just going to pause the form. When we started the form, we were all going this way, right? And then the form went that way. So now the form is going to the left part of the room. Sorry. It's going to the right side of the room with your left foot in the front. So your left foot is in the front and we're going this way. You probably look like this right now, where your body's going this way, but you're looking in the camera like that. That's very normal and very fine. So I block, pull down, same, just combo 3 times. Punch, fan, strike, down block over your knee, punch, fan, strike, down block over your knee, punch, fan, strike, down block over your knee, punch left, punch right. Good. Then from there, take this out. I'm going to show you this part of the form going the proper direction it would normally go in the form, which is going away from the camera, going to the back of the room. Open up my left hand, I turn my feet, I step my left foot behind my right foot, and then I'll just pivot. My right foot is now going to the left part of the room. My left foot is going to the back wall. I draw a circle around, almost like I'm trying to take the side and touch my other shoulder. And then I bring it back around and strike in front of me. I'm sorry. I throw it down. Hide it away. Step forward, punch. Open it up. It's here. Go ahead, keep it upside down though. Slide your left leg over. So I went from here and I just slide back. Circle. Strike. Step and slide. Keep it leaned back. Circle. Down block. Okay. Now we're going to do this part of the form, that very last part. We're going to do that going towards the camera, so you're not having to look over your shoulder and learn this part backwards. Okay. So we're going to go from You know what? Let's just do this. Let's skip that whole spin part. Let's just start here. I want to do the spin, but that a lot of times can be the hardest part. So take your right foot. We're going towards the camera. You're going towards this way. Right foot is sideways. Left foot is facing the camera. You're very light on your left foot. You're very heavy on your back foot, on your right foot. Okay, you take the left one. You open it up. Good. Flip it over. It's like I'm pouring something out. Flip it over. And from there, you're going to take and just touch your opposite shoulder. Good. And then go behind your head. Then bring it around. And that part will go down. So it's going to end up making a circle. You'll end up not touching your shoulder, but it's just a good frame of reference. So it just makes a circle around your head. It orbits. Throw it down. Don't really throw it. Hide it away. Step forward, punch. Good. Open it up. Again, leave your right foot where it is. Take your left foot and just draw it over. Good. And lean back on it. Circle the other way now, because a second ago, our left hand went like this. So now your right hand's going like this. It's going the other way. Strike across, fold it in, step, slide and lean back, down block. So your right hand just goes in front of your knee. Okay? So it's not a lot of moves, not a lot of techniques. Okay, but it's a weird variation of techniques. It can be kind of hard to learn sometimes. Okay, so we're going to start our form over. Okay, this time you're going to do it with me, but we're going to go, instead of me facing you and mirroring you, we're just going to go the same direction. So this is like as if you were standing behind me in class. Okay, so we're here. Good. Left one pulls, right one tucks into your belt. Step and punch. Good. Fan. Strike. Hopefully this gives you a better view of the stance transition. Step, punch. So you can see that as my hand is opening up, I start this stance by pivoting my foot. And then I push and lean, and I slide. So I transfer all the way to this leg. Then I fan, and then as I'm pulling my left hand, after I finish my fan block, as I'm pulling this left hand back into me, it's kind of hard to do that without turning my body. Okay? And it's kind of hard to turn your body without wanting to turn your foot. So you want to go ahead and turn that foot so this part is easier. And then now as I strike this one out, I also step this one out. Boom. So that happens at the same time. And then I just down block, my leg stays there. Left hand comes up. I want to step forward, punch. Again, open up your stance. Pull the hand back if you need to. Slide it over. Okay? The way to check your Fugel stance is just to lift up this front leg. If you can do that without losing balance, then you have enough weight back here. You're leaned back far enough. I fan block forward. As I pull it back, turn your foot, and then strike back out. Down block, punch left, punch right. Open them both up. Step back. Good. Kimai, nice and strong. Good. Here. Okay, your legs slide straight over, but sometimes that'll put you in way too deep and wide of a stance. So it is okay, from here, as you're going to put this X block forward, if I just move my foot over, good, sometimes that can leave me with too wide of a stance. So it is okay that as you go to slide this leg over, you can also, watch my foot, slide it towards you, so in just a little bit, so that when I step backwards and I turn, I have a lot more balance, okay? Put the X block up, but just make sure when you're doing that part, when I say slide your leg over, I don't mean here. I don't want your feet on the same line. I do want your left foot still in the front. It goes from a Kimai stance, I step back, and then I turn my feet, so now I'm in a Chungal stance, so my left foot in the front. Good, I have my X block, there it goes, over my head. I step forward, strike, double, just the dragon's down block, punch left, punch right. Juniors, I went here, punch left, punch right, and then quick into the next combo. Block, Fugel stance. All my foot did, I lean onto this foot. This foot doesn't move to do this stance. It stays here. This leg turns and slides. And again, it's helpful to slide your foot because you can that'll give you more of an auditory, like your ears will hear that sound, or it'll feel your foot rub against the ground. And so then you should just feel the ball of your foot on the ground. Right, barely. So I should just feel a very little amount of weight on this foot, right? Just like I was touching something. I'm not pushing down on it. From here, very good. Think of like if you just put your hand on your bed, but you didn't lean on it. If I just touched like the cover, good, that's all you want to feel. I don't want to lean and press down on it because I squish. So it should just be here. Pull down, step forward, punch, fan, strike, down block, step, punch, fan, strike, down block, step, punch, fan, strike, down block, sorry for leaving the camera, punch, punch, turn. And that's just a different way to make that turn happen. Again, there's a couple different ways to make this turn to get there. One of the ways is to pivot, step, and pivot. Okay, another way is to lift. Before you turn, you first want to look over your shoulder and see where it's going. I know my foot's going to go there, so I want to see the spot that my foot's going to go to, so I can kind of visualize what's about to happen. And then I lift up my foot, spin, and set it back down, making sure it lands in the front. So when I finish this, because sometimes students they get the spin process down, but they get so good at it, they go like this, and they put their foot behind them. They overspin. So it's important to make sure that you know when you turn, you're going to turn to the left, you're going to pick up your left foot, and this is going to now become your front foot. So I pick it up and put it down. Block, pull, step, punch, fan, strike, down block, punch, fan, strike, down block, step, punch, fan, strike, down block, double punch. This is going to the back of the room. Go down. We'll work on that step here in a second. Hide it away. I step forward and I punch. Circle, strike, fold, down block. So an easy way and a helpful way, and again, it just depends on what you have at home to use to practice, but you can definitely get creative, and you can use pieces of paper. For me, I like to use electrical tape because it sticks to the floor. You can use duct tape, any kind of tape. Scotch tape works. You just need some sort of visual symbol. No, need something bright. I don't have anything bright. Good. Orange works. Okay, and so what I mean is some sort of visual symbol, and what you'll do is, and the student can do this, or you can help them with this, is just taking, instead of doing the whole form, because a lot of times if you just practice, if the only time you practice a form, you just solely go from start to finish doing the form, whenever you're doing the form, you're going to find little parts of it that you like more than others. You're going to find parts of it that you're not big fans of. A lot of times it's the spins, it's the rotations, okay, going from one stance to the next. And a lot of times then, if you know that you're having a hard time with that part of the form, you spend the rest of the time practicing just focused on that. So it takes all of your focus away from the rest of the form, because you're dreading the part that's about to happen because you don't like to do it, or because you don't think you're good at it, or whatever the reason is, or you just don't quite understand it. And then it makes the rest of the form look sloppier because you're not focused on what you're doing. You're focused on what you can't do, which is not a good habit to build. So instead, you take those parts of the forms that are giving you trouble, and you just pull them out, and you just drill those parts until you get very comfortable with them, and then you go back to practicing the whole form. So let's take where we're going, the move we just did, okay, for instance, where we just did the sideways combo, and we turn, and we landed here, right? And so what you would simply do, good, and this works again if you have small pieces of paper, good, or if you have something that you can stick on the ground, and you have where your front foot's going to be, boop, very good. You have where your back foot is, and the first thing you'll do is you'll go to that spot. I want to take and go to that spot, and so from here, I do the stance first, I step back, and I turn. Notice how this foot stayed on that spot. And I just find the spot, and I put the tape down. Good. So I go back to my original stance, and I can physically see where the tape is now, so I have an idea where I'm going. And then from there, as I turn, I just work on getting my foot to that spot. So I know when I get there, there's no double stepping, and the cool part is you can do that, and you can walk your way through the entire form, making that happen. Another very common one, transition, is just which happens all over this form. In every single combo that we do is that fugal to chungle, and we do it on both sides. So practicing both sides and just getting to where we're hitting these spots every single time. Okay, the first step to making this easier is understanding the stances and kind of what makes those stances correct. Okay, what makes a fugal stance correct is the fact that it is a straight line stance. So my feet are actually on the same exact line. Okay, I have one foot that's in the back and it's going sideways. My other foot, it should be directly in front of my heel. Okay, so that's why a lot of times in class we use the squares because it has that shape on it already, and we'll put our heel right in the middle of one spot, and then our other foot guides on that line. So that's what your fugal stance should look like. Okay, and then from there, then it's your chungle stance. You practice your chungle stance by yourself. Good. From your chungal stance, that is a very wide stance. It's the polar opposite that your fugal stance is. It is wide, good, and it's also called a front stance because everything is going to the front. Your shoulders, your hips, the knot of your belt, your knees, your toes, everything is driving to the front, right? If you notice that when you're in this stance, your body's more sideways, that could be why it's giving you trouble. You're just not, that's probably because your body is too narrow. You got to widen it. Your feet should be outside of your hips. So if I look down, and again, these are my hips. If I look down and my feet are inside them or are on the same line, that's probably why you're off balance. It should be wider. Okay, another, without having an entire class on stances, a chungal stance and a Kimai stance have the same width. Okay, so if you go to a Kimai stance, from the waist up, a Kimai stance and a chungal stance are the same exact thing. And the depth and distance of my feet are the same exact thing. So it's a very helpful way. One easy way to practice your Kimai stance or your chungal stance is to start in a Kimai stance. Good. And from there, we like to draw lines backwards because they do down blocks and do a lot of negative motions here, but sometimes it's hard to see where they're going behind themselves. So what you can also do, again, same concept. Good. Is I take from here, and instead of stepping backwards where they can't see where they're going, is you'll take and you'll put a piece of tape in front of them on that same line, and they step to the line. Oh, okay, then it makes more sense. And then you can also do the same thing either in the same spot here, or you can kind of walk them forward that way, just getting them in this setting. Good. And then when you go from the Kimai, from the chungal to the fugal, same idea with the tape. Is you would set a piece of tape, good, here where that front foot goes, good, and then from there, there's tape everywhere now. And so I put a piece of tape where my front foot goes for my fugal stance, and then from there, I practice getting in the stance first. I pivot on my foot, I slide my leg over, good, and then I just put a piece of tape where that foot goes there. So I have here, and I practice just going from 1, I see where it's going, to 2. Very good. From 1, I look at it, to 2. And eventually what will happen is you'll start to hit the tape with your eyes up. Not looking for it, you're just hitting the tape. Because your feet are going to the one spot. And that's kind of the way you sort of drill that. You look at where you're going first, and then eventually you'll get to where you're actually looking, and you'll look last. Did it. Because your body is programmed now to do it that way and only that way. Okay, those are just a couple really easy, kind of rather inexpensive ways. This costs like $1, I think, at like Ace's hardware store or any other hardware store, to practice and just get stances correct. Let's do the form one last time and lock and load it, and then we'll call it a day for the Psi class. Ready? And so I'm going to mirror you guys. We're just going to rock through the dragon form one time. Bow, just to get that center combo down. Present up. Step out. Good. Show me the left one. Very good. Step forward and punch. Slide. Fan. Strike. Work that transition. Down block. Step. Punch. Fan. Strike. Down block. Step. Punch. Fan. Strike. Down block, punch left, punch right, open them both up, block the legs, slide the leg in a little bit if you're too wide, make your X block, move your front leg, move your left leg over, turn, block it up, step forward towards me, strike it forward, double down block, just the dragons, focus your stance, punch left, punch right. Just the juniors, punch left, punch right. I think we have the sides of this form locked in tight, so we're going to go ahead and just kind of fast forward to the very ending combination where you go to the back wall. We're going to, again, keep going this way and doing it. So we're going to start like this and just getting that spin down. This is another helpful like tape position. You would turn, you take your left foot, it's going to go directly behind your other foot, tight rope it. Hand comes behind. Once it gets behind your back, your body turns, then it goes down in front of your leg like a down block almost. Hide it away. Step forward, punch with your right hand, open it up, slide your left leg over, circle, chop and strike out, step forward, down block. Turn back to the front, rest, ready, feet together, and we bow. And that's all for side today. Again, we have the entire form locked in tight, so we're going to go back and keep kind of repping that form out so we can understand the pacing and the timing and the speed of it. And we're also doing, by doing the form, every time we do it, we should do it as strong as we can, because we're not only focusing on how to do the move correctly, we're also focusing on building up enough stamina, enough wind, enough air to be able to do the form really strong, go ahead and get from start to finish without getting tired. That's the thing, is just knowing the form is one thing, but if I just know the form, but when I actually do the form, I get really tired. When you get really tired, your technique starts to dip. It stops being as strong. So you have to make sure you practice the form strong enough and long enough so that you don't get tired doing it, so you can stay strong from start to finish, right? And feet together. Good work today, guys. Bow. You are dismissed. If you're a junior beginner belt, your class is up next. Little Dragons, have a wonderful Wednesday.